Everyone to the Policy Committee meeting of March 11th, 2026. Today, I would like to acknowledge that we are privileged to meet on of the Squamish and the St'át'imc Nations. It's a beautiful day here today, even though we have a little bit of questionable weather. And so I hope everyone has safe travels to wherever they may go as this day goes on. Lovely to see you all. It's very nice that we're all here together in person. And I'd like to begin this meeting with an agenda recommendation.
That the agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you, Melissa. And thank you, Lisa, for seconding. All in favor? Six in favor, none opposed. Thank you so much. We'll move on to the minutes recommendation.
That the minutes of the Policy Committee meeting held on February 11th, 2026 be adopted.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there a seconder for that?
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. And that brings us right down to item number 4, an information item. And I'll turn it over to our Secretary Treasurer, Danielle Haberstock, for the 2025-2026 policy review schedule.
Thank you. So for the schedule, policy 202 trustee role has been added to the review schedule for this year, and it's listed on the agenda for discussion later today. So that's the only changes to the schedule.
Thank you. And that's everything from you.
And then we have B.
Okay, yep, no trouble, but nothing else for A?
That's right.
Okay, lovely. Okay, we'll move on to item B. It's the policy 202 trustee role procedure update. And your name is beside that one as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so at the last board meeting, the vote to add policy 202 to the 25-26 policy review was incorrectly declared not carried. And the motion was carried as there was 3 votes in favor and 3 abstentions. And this was confirmed by the minutes.
Okay.
So just wanted to update everybody on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That is the end of our information items. So we'll move on to number 5, which are our discussion items. And the first one is item A, policy 708, privacy management program. And again, I will turn it over to Danielle to begin our conversation.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so a couple of years ago, school districts were required by legislation to have a privacy management program put into place. And we did do that at that time. At that time, there were some individuals who were reaching out to school districts and other public organizations who also required to have this, like universities and stuff. And they were sort of reviewing their websites to make sure they were in compliance with what's required for a privacy management program. Thankfully, no one was questioning us, but it was happening across the province. So at that time, the lawyers just said, you know, it's a really good idea for your policies to name it privacy management program instead of privacy, just to make sure that it's like clear that we do have a program in place. So that's one of the changes that you'll see from the current version to the proposed version. And so in the privacy management program, the proposed version, it outlines what's required for the privacy management program. So some of that is having a privacy breach procedure, training for all staff, all those kinds of things. So it's outlined in there, which it wasn't in there before. And then this policy was actually drafted by our lawyers, and it's being used in other jurisdictions. So some other additional changes were there's an expansion of some definitions. And another thing that I just wanted to point out is that video surveillance has been moved out of this privacy policy, which we'll talk a little bit about in the next topic. And there were also some procedural parts removed out related to FOIP requests. So,
Okay, thank you so much. I will open it up for discussion. Give me 1 second just to go back to the right page. Okay, terrific. Danielle, thank you so much for that update. Lisa, I noticed you had your hand up. If you'd like to go ahead and be our first speaker, that would be lovely.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed in the draft from the lawyers, if we could all please be consistent in what we're calling our school district. So some of our policies are saying Sea to Sky School District, then in comma or in brackets SD 48. So if we could just make sure that those items are consistent within the housekeeping, because it's not in this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We could just note that as housekeeping. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Celeste, please go ahead.
Yeah, similar to the policy that we discussed last time, trustee is not capitalized in this policy. I think I did send some housekeeping this morning and that wasn't included in that document. There are some words that I believe are not necessary. It makes the document longer than is needed. So I've submitted that to you, April, Danielle, and Chris. But it's housekeeping. There's nothing of substance that is concerning in policy.
Thanks, Les. I am actually just opening up the document you sent and I can't see the revisions that you made.
There's not.
I can't see the
Yeah.
track changes, so
See if I can.
yeah, it's saying, like, I have a link to it, but I can't see if something was changed or.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and Melissa, go ahead, please.
I just had a question with 8.2.3 to accommodate students with special needs. Is that still a phrase that we are using?
Yeah, it's I appreciate that. I noted that as well. So the ministry hasn't changed the term yet, but I would offer that we should change it to students with neurodiversity, the stock phrase that we use now, because we all know what we mean.
Yeah.
And so I think that was, yeah, I'm not fussed personally about a lawyer problem with using the more progressive term than the current one. Yeah, and I think that also drops as well.
Go ahead. Sid.
So on the link, like under section 2.
Sorry, which link are you? I think it might be the original one. I'm not sure.
So I'll just share too. I opened as well. I think it's unfortunately an access. It says request edit access. So we just see the original. And I think if you give us access, then we'll probably be able to see your suggestion.
I just clicked request access.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Celeste.
Are there any other questions or comments around policy 708 privacy management program? I'm seeing none. I did have just one curiosity, and I'm sure I already know the answer, I think, but there's probably quite a few administrative procedures associated with this.
There's some.
Some?
There's a privacy breach procedure,
Okay,
and we're going to talk about possibly a video surveillance one.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, lovely. Okay, thank you so much. If there's anything else, now would be everyone's chance. Seeing none, let's move down to what Danielle was just mentioning.
No,
Item,
I think we have to just decide if this is.
oh, yes. Yes, we do need to decide whether or not we want to, as a committee, bring this out into the open meeting. And then we will pass the motion at the open meeting. So is there a motion to move policy 708 to the open meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we need official language drafted up? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Are you drafting something?
In the meantime, I have a question.
Yes.
So sometimes we're voting on things in policy and then debating and voting again in the public. So I'm curious why this is different.
I was just thinking about that over the course of the last two meetings, and I think the confusion lays in that now everyone is a member of the policy committee. But if we were a committee of, say, 2 or 3 people, then only those 2 or 3 people would have the information. And so then they would move that information to the public meeting, and then the entire group of trustees would then have debate and such.
I understand that.
But because we are basically functioning like a committee of the whole, I think would be the right way to describe it. Those things seem to be happening at committee, which is okay because we're all the committee. And so technically, I don't know, technically is the right word, but what has happened is a decision's been made, I feel, to both take it, and correct me if I'm wrong anywhere here, to take it to the open meeting. And then it's given people some time to ponder, to think, and almost have like a second opportunity to debate again.
I understand that, but that wasn't my question. Okay, my question is, why do some policies get debated here and at the public, and why do some policies like this one just get moved to the public for debate? Like before she does, you'll say, all in favor. But the way what she's suggesting is that we move this to the public. Like, we'll see what the wording comes up with. So she was just saying like, well, we'll just move this to the public meeting for. Yes.
For final approval.
Yeah, because the recommendations from last meeting, the 2 that we debated in policy. Were a full, this is the debate, this is the motion, and it was exactly the same when we got to the public meeting. So I'm just curious as to how that works.
I think if I may, I believe it was because for the opening up of a review of a existing motion. That was the discussion of whether to bring it to policy committee.
Yeah, there was also
As opposed to-
trustee code of conduct that we debated in both.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong then.
There were 2 of them, 202.
Yeah.
That we debated here to whether to bring it out of cycle.
Yes,
And then we also debated, this, the 204, was that the one that you did all that work on?
Sanctions, yeah.
And whatnot. So we debated both, which is in line with Robert's rules, but I'm just asking why this one seems a little different.
should be.
I'm not sure that. Okay, no, it was just the way it was said.
Hmm.
So, but now I'm reading the motion that's there. It is in line.
So Archie just confirmed this is like the motion we normally have in here.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It was just it was just the way that Cynthia said it.
Hmm.
Sounded different than
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, that it was already.
that we were going to bring it to
Understood. Thank
the
you.
public meeting for debate.
Yes,
With something similar to that. So, okay, I'm satisfied.
All right. Is there anyone prepared to make this motion?
That the policy committee recommend the Board of Education approves policy 708 privacy management program as presented with housekeeping changes.
Thank you, Lisa. And is there a seconder for that motion?
I will.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. All right, thank you so much. Now we will move to item B, video surveillance.
Thank you. Okay, so I mentioned to everybody before that the video surveillance piece has been moved out of the privacy policy. And that was what the lawyers recommended. So we do have a draft document from the lawyers, and it's not ready to be shared yet today. And one of the reasons is the video surveillance piece could be either a board policy or it could be a procedure. And so I just wanted to bring that out as a discussion. So April and I attended a session that BCSDA put on last week. She's going to be talking more about that in committee of the whole, about what board procedures are, or sorry, what procedures are versus what are policies. And what did come out of that is that board policy should be why and what for boards of education, and procedures are how to do things for staff, which makes sense, right? So when we looked at, they set up a framework that Barnaby had set up for having procedures versus policies. And the one for video surveillance was set up as a procedure. And I think it's pretty procedural too. But I just wanted to, have a discussion here about just how does everybody feel about having video surveillance as a procedure versus a policy? Because it was previously in the privacy policy.
I'll open it up for discussion. I'll just check to see if anyone else is ready first. Lisa, go ahead.
I think personally, I would like to see it as both, because I think the expectation is that we inform all parties that we have an expectation that video surveillance will be on our sites, on our properties for A, B, C, D, E, and then one for staff and implementation. Like, I think it should be public that it's there, this is why, this is what the board believes, and then you guys implement it any way that you feel is required.
Thank you. So let's go ahead.
One of the benefits.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So I'll just start from the beginning. So I think the benefit of having it as a board policy will ensure that there's more transparency around what is happening through discussion at this table. The use of video surveillance on school property is bound to be contentious. And so I don't see any harm in having it remain as a board policy, or have some portions of it written in procedure, and maybe things that more properly belong in policy remain with the board.
So what I'm hearing right now is that there's some thought that perhaps it can lay in both policy and an operational procedure. Is there any dissenting views from that? Is there anyone who would like to add any additional comments to either strengthen the argument or to do the opposite?
I have a question.
Melissa,
When
go
it's
ahead.
policy instead of a procedure, does it put more faith in parents looking at it and reading it, or is it about the same? Or like, if you were to come at it with questions and it's a policy, is it more like?
I can answer, try and answer that. Sure. When it's a board policy, it gives us the benefit of oversight into what staff is doing. They don't come to us for feedback on procedures. It's just done behind the scenes and not necessarily discussed here at all. So it may provide confidence for the public that we are involved, we're listening, and we're watching what these people are doing.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments from Chris or Danielle? Is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
Well, I'll save my comments for the poll.
Okay.
Procedures.
Sure.
April, do you have anything on the video surveillance piece? About the procedure versus policy? No?
Okay. Okay. Do we need a motion or anything at this time?
No, I mean, that's going to be helpful. I can probably bring it forward to the next board meeting. And then, I mean, if the team takes a look at it and they're like, actually, this is super procedural, we can always change our mind then.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Maybe there'll be more information coming forth at the committee of the whole that might change our minds or maybe strengthen our opinions. Hard to say. We'll wait and see what we hear. And then,
And if I may, so Julie, again, if folks do have enough one or the other to make a decision, when the policy is brought to the open board meeting, right, that's when there is an opportunity to make any changes if folks feel so moved, because you've approved the policy as is. It doesn't have video surveillance in it, but after committee of the whole and discussion, when we have the open, you can have that discussion then and tell the public, right, as we shared in our committee of the whole, we discussed video surveillance, and now we'd like to X, but either one or another. So you may feel compelled to do so, then you have that opportunity, or you can wait, because you haven't passed. The policy hasn't passed. Right?
Yes, exactly.
The policy is, it's coming to the board meeting for approval, and you may have more to say. Yeah.
So could the
Timing is just off, that's all, we recognize that.
yeah, so the discussion could possibly whether or not we leave the piece about video surveillance in policy 708, or if we pull it out to be a standalone policy,
That's right.
or,
And if you feel that way, you would defeat the motion and ask staff to do that and bring it back, or not. So you have that
or
opportunity.
create a
today.
standalone motion or something. Okay, Celeste, go ahead.
Daniel, can you explain the reason why they felt it didn't belong?
It's pretty lengthy. The video piece itself, it's like quite a few pages.
Okay.
And I talked to the lawyer about if they believe it should be like procedural, and they said it could go either way.
Right.
Like that from their opinion. And then when I looked at Burnaby's, we saw that they had theirs as a procedure, so it could go either way. Really,
Your
but it's pretty,
superintendent is fussed at.
yeah, neither am I.
It just needs to be written down somewhere. Do you think that because it's so lengthy, if it does remain in policy, it should actually be a separate, so sorry, separate policy rather than embedded within that larger policy?
I think so.
Okay.
I think I think the other one, it's like, I thought it was looking already a bit much before. I think
Mhm.
it's just overwhelming. if you have
It's
it in there.
long,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So the proposition might be to approve what we have discussed today and then have a separate policy developed that is its own standalone thing
Yeah.
for ease of use and or an administrative procedure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a question?
No, I just had to get my thinking together. Good, okay. I think I'm hoping everyone feels comfortable with the discussion and has a clear idea of how we're moving forward. I don't see anyone looking like they want to say anything at this moment, so if everyone is comfortable, we'll move on to our next item, which is item C, policy 202 trustee role review, and I'll turn that over to.
Thank you. So to reiterate from last month, I was bringing this forward based on information I was provided when I was the chair. So it's not necessarily just mine, as it keeps coming up as. So I think there's a need to review and change or define several aspects prior to going into a new election. So, we potentially could have, a whole new board come October election time. And I don't know that everything is really, it's kind of spelled out in there, but there's no what happens if. So we have items like our trustees' obligation to be participating and attending and in our votes as an elected representative. And we can't relinquish nor delegate this responsibility. And then there's pieces under section 4, specific responsibilities of individual trustees. And so I'll take a step back and just say that this is I've had trustees come and indicate that they struggle with Zoom when we have some in the room and some on the screen. As you should all be aware, we've had issues with connectivity where those are calling in, or connectivity in this room and being able to display on Zoom. As I'm sure some of the conversation will come with the next agenda item with protocols. There's expectations of what is seen happening on Zoom. There's also and it's in our trustee role that we're not just here, even though the School Act only says if you miss 3 consecutive board meetings, but in our role here, it does talk about our commitment to attend all trustee pro D, all the committee meetings and the invitations to schools and all those. So we've had public come to us, and ask, about, trustees who are not in attendance. We've had staff comment on, I took the time to come to the board to present and there's only 2 trustees in the room. The others might be on Zoom. We have students who take the time to come and present in this room. And we've had, a majority of trustees on Zoom. So there are many districts who are going back to the board table and stuff because Zoom was not a thing prior to COVID. And I think that it serves its purpose at times, but I don't know that a board meeting day is one of those. So in here we don't define extenuating circumstance. We don't have that. So I don't know what that means. I have an idea. And then it does say virtual attendance where available may be provided. So that doesn't happen in schools. But at the board table, it has been a common practice. And I just want to have that conversation. And again, these are items that were brought to me as the chair. So, and then, things that I've witnessed myself. So there's the background to where I'm thinking.
Okay, thank you for that, Rebecca. Are there any comments or questions? Yeah, Lisa, go ahead.
Are you looking for us to move that we take it out of rotation again and have debate on it again?
We've already done that. This is the review.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we voted on that twice last month.
So
I'm just going to jump in because I think this has the potential to turn into a lot of people talking all at the same time. So maybe we can really try to follow Robert's Rules of Order and everyone says one thing once and everyone gets a chance to talk and then people can try to talk a second time. Not to cut people off, but I'm just like a little bit concerned that we might lose control. Maybe we won't. But Lisa, go ahead and finish what you're saying. Or maybe you are finished and then I'll give Rebecca a chance to.
oh no, I'm definitely not finished. Thank you. Were you finished?
Yeah, I was just clarifying too that.
Okay.
Okay, so you've had a chance to speak once. Maybe we'll.
No,
see
I've
if-
not had a chance to speak. That was just a question for what was going on, for clarity. The speaking part will be part of the discussion on why I don't think we should be pulling it out of rotation. I think that it's already being
voted.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lisa, I'm sorry, Cynthia.
No, go ahead.
We've already done that. Last meeting, we voted to have it brought out of rotation. So we're not debating that. What we're debating now is what Rebecca has brought forward and her concerns with this particular policy. So we are debating the policy now.
right.
Thank you.
You're the chair.
Hand up. Okay,
Let's hear it.
so. If I would just ask a question and then someone else can have a chance to ask their question, but my question is, usually when we have a policy that there are some changes made to, we receive a tracked version of those changes. And so I'm wondering if our next step would be, like Rebecca, maybe if you could submit something that showed the tracked changes, and then we would have a document that we could work from and take the next steps. And then you could add or delete or modify however you felt fit. And then that would come back to the committee, and then the committee could vote as to whether or not they felt in agreement or not in agreement to those changes. Celeste?
I'm hearing the spirit of what your intention is here, and I think that I'm not sick. I'm having a frog in my throat today. So I hear the spirit and intention of what you're talking about here, and I think that it is an important issue as well. I think that it's really important that we, in approaching this, don't frame any issues as allegations, and that we remain sensitive to the difficulty that will come in defining extenuating circumstances, especially when there may be medical issues associated with that, because medical privacy is something we don't want to approach the area of encroaching on anything to do with medical privacy or issues that may be sensitive for an individual that may bring about the need to attend remotely. So it's a really, really important discussion. And I think, Cynthia, you're correct. The next step is probably making proposed changes to the wording, and we could all go away and do that work. It doesn't have to be one person. We could also request help, in setting the next board up for success in serving the public in the way that it deserves to be served. And the only other thing that I'll say is I just hope that regardless of what we have on paper about expectations with respect to us being in the room, that we not move away from recording our meetings because it's so important for access, for the public to access us. Not everybody is off work during the day and all of that, so they can watch it later on. So I hear what you're talking about, and I think we can sort of gently and collaboratively work together towards what you're hoping for, but just really being grounded in the principles of, medical privacy, and not framing things as allegations would be helpful. And let's figure out what some words are that we could all agree upon that can achieve what you're hoping for, which is we all, I think, hope for.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you, Celeste. And again, this is really feels like it's like what you are hoping for, what you're asking for. This is your route, your lead, and stuff. And Rebecca, this is yours. You're bringing forward. This is what said last month as well. And again, this is stuff that was brought to me as the chair, as a collective, and it wasn't just a one person came and said something. So, there's a bunch of things that are feeding into it, and we've had this conversation many times at this table. All I'm asking now is we look at this, we have an election coming up, and we look at the role and clearly define. So somebody decides, I'm going to run for trustee. This is what is expected of me. And whatnot. So to have that work done now, prior to somebody making the decision to run, because I've seen other people run and they were told, oh, we just meet once a month. Hell no, there's a lot more to it. So that's part of it. The other piece of it is no, I'm not going to go and do a bunch of track changes. I saw what happened to all the work you did on one, and then legal says, oh no, that doesn't fit. And it's all thrown out. So you probably spent hours and hours and hours working on that. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what is possible, what isn't possible. So for me, and this is what happens in most of our policies, correct me if I'm wrong. Staff goes and does the legwork. They get the idea of what we're looking for. They develop the need changes to the policy and bring it forward to us for debate. Is my, in my memory, that's how we generally do it. It's not up to me to take it away and come back with a bunch of changes that legal wouldn't support or what have you. April, go ahead.
Having read this policy several times now, I think a couple of things. I don't think that there's anything wrong currently with the wording of the policy. I don't know how you change something to, I don't know. I think we have to interpret more than change. Extenuating circumstances are extenuating circumstances. And I think that's where we are getting hung up, whether it's medical, whether it's family, whatever, whether it's job obligations, all of the things. And I don't see any, I've looked at it myself and I thought, okay, how can we change this and make it a little clearer? But I don't see a way to make it any clearer. So I'm with Rebecca. I don't think that we need to track changes. I think we need to have a discussion about these things and a clarification and maybe an agreement or something like that. I like the idea that we're doing this prior to becoming a board member or considering running again, because it does have implications for that. One of the other things that I'm concerned about is that we've taken this out of rotation now, and it looks like we're focusing only on a couple of things. Where if we take it out of rotation, we need to do this actual policy justice and look at all of it. Like, I really read it several times this time, and there were a lot of things that I read that I was surprised about, and that we shouldn't just pass over because we're focusing on 2 or 3 of the points. So I hope that that happens. And I'm not sure I'm not sure how it works, but if we take it out of rotation, does that still deal with it again when it comes up in the rotation? So in another year, are we dealing with it again, or is this it? So that's a question I have. I also was, what was the part where, oh no, I lost it. Yes, we're talking about meetings. We're talking about Zooming. I, for one, when I was the president of the union, I Zoomed every day, all day for a year. I'm done with it. I struggle with it myself. I'll be right up front. I don't particularly like it, but it also doesn't impact, like, I can be here all the time, but it's something a person should consider when and if they're deciding to run. The other piece that's important that I really read was the obligation of trustees to stay current with the educational practices. I sit on PLC for BCSTA, and I got to tell you, there is so much deliberation, there's so much purpose, there's so much thought that goes into who we bring and what we discuss at both Academy and AGM. And it's all tied into the rotation of becoming a trustee. So the first year that you were a trustee, you'll see an awful lot more about governance and about what it means to be a trustee. And then as you end up into your 4th year, you'll see more things about educational practice, about Indigenous ways. And I think that it's hugely important that we have taken an oath, and it says here we need to keep up on educational practices. And I think those are the 2 opportunities that shouldn't be missed. That's my little.
April, Celeste, go ahead.
It sounds like maybe what we could change in the policy, if we were to change anything, would be how often we review this policy as like a regular, not in the sense of to make changes to it, but just to read it and talk about it and understand it. So in my day job, there are certain things that we mandatorily review every 6 months so that everyone stays current. And so we could add a line to this policy if we were changing it now. And I think that it would have to stay in the regular rotation with the cluster. So again in a year, whenever it is, we should leave it where it belongs.
Mhm.
But if we want to make a change now while we're going through the process of assessing it and its value, reading it once every 4 years or however often it comes up is not enough. So we could say, we believe that it's important or it's mandatory for this policy to be reviewed, read by the board and discussed by the board at a board meeting. How are we doing? Let's take a moment to reflect upon our practices. And that just happens twice a year at the same time every year. And it just is how we move forward. And maybe there are even a couple others that we could be like, we're going to read these on purpose and we're going to have a brief discussion at a board meeting twice a year and just make sure that we're on track with the stuff we believe is.
Thank you for that, Celeste. I'm just going to jump in before I go to Lisa. I saw her hand up. And if I'm missing you guys, say, because it's hard to see you out of the side of my eye. But I'm wondering, because Rebecca is concerned about people who may be coming into this role new, knowing what the expectations are. And I know that our staff prior to elections do go out and offer an information session to the public before they consider running. I wonder if it's possible to use the information that you provide the public with at those meetings as maybe, I don't know if an administrative procedure is the right attachment to this policy. And then if someone were to say, oh, I'm really interested in running, what are the responsibilities, they could look and they could see those things listed. That would be the same as what was discussed at those meetings that staff hold prior to elections. And then that maybe helps with Rebecca's concern and others perhaps that people don't know what they're getting into when they sign up. I just leave it like that. And Lisa, go ahead.
I was also going to point out that now that I realize that we're debating this one, that the Zoom feature also provides as much as someone might like it or not like it, for me, it is medical, but it's also a very fiscal responsible way to conduct business for some people. Our board uses it regularly to connect across the district. And before we throw out access to Zoom or say that this is where we want the meetings to be held, I think we really need to capture those essences of fiscal responsibility as every single person in this room's responsibility as well. And if you are comfortable, it is an access that we all have. So yeah, just like to point that out as well.
Okay, yeah, so let's go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to your comment. I don't know that anything more needs to be done in terms of staff developing a procedure. This stuff is public. It is on the website. There's only so much control that we have. If people want to run, like this is democracy. If people want to run and people vote for them or nobody runs against them, that, we get who we get, but we can remind people about this stuff on a semi-frequent basis. And, performance management of elected officials is a different kettle of fish than performance management of employees. And that's really what we're talking about here, right? So, even if it comes down to sanctions, we went through that whole process of the sanctions process. Like there was a legal case that I found, you can't prevent people from serving in their roles as trustees. So at the end of the day, if somebody really wants to not do this job properly, there is very little that we can do, but we can develop a culture where we as a group can say, we feel that these things are important. We feel that this is what the public deserves from us. And we're going to try and maintain that by talking about it frequently. But I don't remember there being an info session before I ran. Maybe that's something new, but
I think
I think it actually is new.
yeah,
Chris,
okay.
yeah,
They also can only do so much. Like they
I think
can't
you guys were the first ones
influence.
to do it.
Yeah, they can't influence who's running and who's not. Like they have to stay back a little bit, right? Because they're involved in the actual election process. So at the end of the day, our span of control is what it is. It's imperfect, but we can talk about these things. And I think that's the very, very best. And I think we should just be cautious about putting additional tasks for these guys. Yeah.
And Rebecca had her hand.
Yeah, so the way I see it is the only thing that we have control over is the money. So we're talking fiscal responsibility. So if we're talking trustees who are collecting $1,600 a month or more and not attending all these events, the trustees will attend all meetings, events, and functions in person unless there's extenuating circumstance. So there have been news articles of trustees who didn't attend an event in person for 2 years. And then that individual was called out. So I'm trying to prevent things like that from happening here. And then, let's be honest, like, we have many certain trustees who are attending far more of these events in the schools. I'm not just talking the board meeting days. That's all we seem to discuss at the board meeting days, but there's way more that goes on. And stuff. So that's the piece that I think is missing in here. It's like, okay, what happens if we're not in compliance, if it's not identified under the sanctions and the trustee code of conduct? What's our recourse? And to me, there are districts who are starting to take remuneration away for not attending. So those are just the conversations. I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just saying that those are things that we do have control And I think Celeste has her hand up
Yeah,
again.
yeah, go ahead. Celeste.
Just to speak to that, so if you're talking about Victoria, like you can look in the case law, there was a huge litigation about that. And I think where that landed was what happened with those trustees being removed was found to be unlawful, and you'd have to go down a whole rabbit hole, but I don't think it's as easy as saying, you elected person don't get to do this anymore. You can't strip people of their title. So
I'm not suggesting that.
or take necessarily garnish the money. Like, I don't think it's as easy as saying we instill this consequence. I mean, Danielle can maybe speak to this better because I'm sure you've looked at that, but I looked at that one case and it is not quite so easy to, it's different than dealing with an employee. This is a
Yeah.
totally different kettle of fish. And I think the recent case law will make it more difficult to instill those kind of consequences.
I'll just jump in. and
Wait,
say
Chris, go ahead.
Yes, and it depends what it is, because again, and it's public, but I won't say the person's name. But a person from Chilliwack, it's public, was ordered to pay $72,000 for hate speech discrimination at the Human Rights Tribunal. Over years and years of the comments made against 2S LGBTQI folks. So there are those situations. And you're also correct
But that's.
that if we don't follow things correctly, sometimes things get reinstated. From my point of view, if I may, what I know is that there are districts that do have specific language that might be helpful, right, around virtual attendance. That some districts do speak to a certain number or percentage, some don't. Some districts are very clear, like clear enough to say in person and virtual, and they actually don't make a distinction between extended circumstances or not. So as a board, right, that seems to me that's what the discussion is do folks want to put more clarity in what's meant by extending circumstance? That's what I'm hearing. Or just leave it as is, or make it even more general. And that is up to the board. It's up to these people at the table. Staff will not have a recommendation one way or the other. This is your work. This isn't our work. What we can share is here's what a bunch of other districts have said. What would you like to do? And then the next board can come in and look and say, interesting. We'd actually like to look at that again and do something different, which is also fun. That's democracy. So just for clarity, right? So you can choose to make a motion now if someone wants to. Don't know if you've spoken twice yet, if we're at the call to question stage or not, but that's also an option if there is a motion on the table. Or you can also make a motion to defer till next board meeting and ask staff to provide some examples. I mean, it's really up to you, but if you're wondering why staff is silent, in my opinion, my advice is this is your work. If you're looking for information, documentation, you can ask staff to provide that to you. But at the end of the day, there are some policies that, yes, we're happy to provide you with, to the best of our ability, to provide you with suggestions and recommendations. But when it comes to board business, I think attendance especially is something that this board needs to determine. And there's different opinions on both sides, and I too have heard from more than one trustee. So I think that's important. Just for the record, because I think transparency is important. But the decision on what to do, if anything at all, lies with the seven of you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Chris. April, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, just a thought. Like I said, I read this several times, and we did take an oath when we became trustees to uphold what's written here. And I would hope that Celeste's idea of reviewing it more regularly is a really good one. I I don't really see us getting to the place where we're going to take action and sanctions. But I do want to remind everybody that we did take an oath to uphold everything that's written here. And I think what Rebecca's getting at is that we need to make very certain, especially with a new board coming in, that everybody is clearly aware. I would think before they take the step of what it is that they are signing up for. And if there's not the time to make that commitment and follow that oath, then I think that we at least need everybody to be well aware before they take the step. Because yeah, I take oaths seriously. So I hope everybody does.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? Are there any requests to staff at this time? Right, is that an appropriate question to ask? I hope so. Okay,
We would
okay.
do that for in a motion, so it's voted on, because again, corporate board.
Yeah, okay, sure. Are there, okay, I'll let that stand. Are there any requests to staff at this time?
I would like to see, make a recommendation that staff review what other districts are doing in respect to, attendance in person, at meetings, events, functions. What was the other one that was there? Trustee development.
All right, I'll give it Archie a little bit of time to draft a motion.
Is that a motion? The recommendation that staff,
Correct,
Chris asked that we do it,
Same thing.
same thing.
Yeah, it still needs to, and it's again, the new board as well, so I'm reminded of your corporate board, so no one trustee can direct staff to do anything without the support of the whole. Sometimes if they give them housekeeping things.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah.
that's why you say with housekeeping as suggested and the whole board votes.
April, while we're waiting for this, you should stay. Oh, okay, then stay sitting.
Yeah.
All right, we're just waiting for the motion to be drafted, so hold on patiently.
Don't bend your ankle.
To fill the silence, the beauty of AI, so that absolutely has its drawback with it. You know, we should be able to get that from 59 other districts relatively easily to you. And put
Okay,
it in
good.
a way that makes sense, yeah.
Okay. That does help, actually.
If you're
yeah.
asking staff to go and open up 59 other districts, we may go a little bit longer, but we're confident that with AI,
It's not too.
yeah, just with the spirit, we understand the spirit of the motion. I think so that,
So it's not tremendously onerous. Okay, good. Okay,
I mean, I could save the district a lot of money and just Zoom everything. So there'd be no mileage.
You could.
You could. So, man,
yeah, go right ahead.
she didn't post it because her laptop's frozen or something. Recommendation that the policy committee recommend that staff review other school districts' practices on attendance in person versus virtual at meetings, trustee professional development and other events.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there anyone ready to second that motion? Okay, April, thank you so much. Any further discussion?
The only additional comment that I have is that, I think that our attention ought to be on the substance of what we're bringing to the meetings, whether or not we're here in person or virtually as well. So I just think that can't be lost being here. But participating is really, no matter where you are, participation is really the focus.
Thank you for that. Yeah, Rebecca, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more that participation, of course, is key, but I also think that being here in person demonstrates to our staff and our students who make the effort to be here, that if we were all to zoom in and they presented to us when we're all online, that would be, to me, quite an embarrassment. So just to bear in mind, what's good for one is good for all is kind of where I'm thinking.
Thank you. Any further comments? All right, I will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion as read? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold on, everyone put are your hand up or down? Sorry, I didn't see. Okay, all in favor? Okay, we have 5 in favor. Any opposed? 1 opposed? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. The motion is carried. We have learned that if you are abstaining, that we do give a reason, but I think that's coming up in an agenda.
You can say of the votes cast.
Yes, okay.
6. 5 in favor, 1 opposed.
1 opposed.
I'm sorry, but the Roberts rules.
You actually do have to explain why you're abstaining. So sorry, Rachel, you do have to explain.
Thanks.
No.
Yes, please.
I'd like to speak to the section of policy 202 regarding trustee attendance. The policy states that trustees will attend meetings in person unless extenuating circumstances prevent them from doing so, and that virtual attendance may be provided where available. That wording already recognizes that participation does not always have to be physical in order for trustees to fill their responsibilities. Prior to the last election, I had conversations with both the superintendent and secretary treasurer about whether it made sense for me to run again, as my personal circumstances had changed and I anticipated spending part of the year outside the community. At that time, it was clearly communicated that participating virtually when necessary was considered an acceptable way to fulfill the role of a trustee. Based on that understanding, I made the decision to run again and continue serving. Virtual participation has also been used by members of this board in the past and has been recognized as full participation in board business. That understanding has helped ensure continuity of participation when trustees have had circumstances that prevented them from attending in person. Consistency in expectations is also important. From my perspective, the key issue is whether trustees are engaged in the work of the board and contributing to decision-making, which is the responsibility outlined in the School Act. Trustees have a legal obligation to participate in board decisions. That responsibility can be fulfilled whether someone is physically in the room or participating virtually. I would also note that I have personally been conducting much of my own professional work online for over 20 years, working with clients internationally and using digital meeting platforms. Virtual participation has long been a normal and effective way of conducting business in many professional environments. There are also practical considerations. Trustees in our district often travel significant distances to attend meetings. Incorporating some virtual participation can reduce travel time, reduce environmental impact, and potentially lower some meeting-related costs. It is also important that we maintain a respectful environment where all trustees feel able to participate fully. All trustees deserve to feel that their participation is valued and respected, regardless of whether they are attending in person or virtually. Trustees are able to contribute most effectively when the environment encourages open participation and when all members feel comfortable sharing their perspectives. Creating that kind of environment allows trustees to participate confidently and contributes to stronger governance. That expectation is also reflected in our own policies, which call on trustees to foster a positive and respectful working culture within the board. More broadly, if we want to attract strong candidates to serve as trustees in the future, we need to recognize that many professionals now work in hybrid environments and expect some flexibility in how meetings are conducted. Speaking personally, after many years of serving on the board, I do not plan to run again in the next election. However, I think it's important that we consider how policies like this may influence the willingness of future candidates to step forward and serve. Ultimately, the strength of a board is measured not by where its members are sitting, but by the quality of their participation and the respect they show one another.
Respectfully, yeah,
Sorry.
and thank you to the board, though, just if I may,
Chair.
also the chair.
Okay.
The reason for I thought you had abstained.
She did.
She did
Okay.
abstain.
That is why.
Thank you, everyone.
I don't know that I can speak to it though, because
You just objected, you don't have to explain.
No, she had it. I think she had something to say.
I don't think I can speak though. I think the speaking part's over.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just clarity on the abstain.
Abstention.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I was like.
Okay. All right. We're at the point now where we will tabulate the votes, and of the votes cast, 5 were in favor and 1 was opposed, so the motion carries. Okay, thank you everyone for that discussion. We'll move on to item D, which is protocols for online meetings. And April, your name is beside that. So give yourself a second to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, here, these are her notes. That's her package. Yeah.
Okay, we've had also in discussion with this policy, we've had some discussion about, if you're participating online, and I think I spoke to you at the last meeting, and I've spoken at nauseum about the fact that when I was the president of the union, I had to be on Zoom for all day, every day, forever, which is what my own personal feelings about it are. But the very first thing we did as a group of presidents across this province was we created a protocol for how to engage online, that it's not just, turn on your camera and turn off your mute and participate. And I'm not suggesting that that's what it is, but it needs to be, especially when we are dealing with the public and we are having people in the room, we need to be assured that the people online are not only fully engaged, but are not distracted by others in the room and are not having people listening who perhaps shouldn't be. So I've sent out, or I went and got the one that we created as presidents. And I did what Chris does. I put it in chat and I said, okay, make this for trustees. And so that's what you see before you. I don't believe it needs to be policy, and I'm not sure about it being procedure, but I think it's something that we all should have a look at and perhaps tweak if we need. It was just something that I quickly pulled together. And again, if we all agree to it, then I think it's something we should follow. So I don't know, Cynthia, if we should open up the floor to discussion. I'm not really sure where to go from here.
So we will open it up to discussion. Okay. Yep, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the things that you could just put on that list of like things that we need to review every 6 months. It's not a waste of time, and it doesn't need to be a lengthy discussion, but it's on an agenda with the expectation that it is read. And then we're all going to come and have like a 10-minute maximum review of this thing that we all agree to. Like there's the value in doing that on a cyclical basis, whether it's biannually, annually, whatever.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I just think at this point, we need to first agree on it. Yeah, we need to have a look at it, see if anybody wants to change anything. I think the first step, you're right. I agree with you going forward, but for today, we just need to look at it. I'm sure everybody has and make a comment on it or agree to it with a vote, I guess.
I'll let Rachel have a turn and then Lisa.
I think should also apply to people on Zoom in the boardroom because people are eating and doing other things as well in the boardroom. So it needs to cover both those outside of it and inside.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do we have this policy for staff in general, like it's an operational policy? Because perhaps that is also where it could or should live, is so that it's reflective of both in any time anyone within the district of the school board is conducting any meeting on Zoom. It should be for any and all. So yeah, just wondering if it's something you guys do at a staff level, Chris, that maybe we should.
I think that's a different discussion. This is about trustees. I expect my staff and as professionals, we're bound by our professional responsibilities, and it's easier to, right? We have expectations of our principals when they're on a Zoom meeting with DPAC meetings, etc. So I think our respect for workplace policy
Covers it all.
covers that,
Yeah.
as well as the duties and responsibilities in the roles.
Okay.
I wonder if we're at the point right now where we should make a motion to accept these protocols as drafted and then have a discussion about whether or not we want to make changes. If anyone thinks that is not where we are at, please speak up.
Yeah, question. I'm not questioning that.
Okay.
There's a question. So where would this fit
Well, that's going to be our next.
in our policies?
Let's
and
see if
stuff?
we like it first and then decide where it should fit. Because if we don't like it, then we don't need to worry about where it's going to fit.
But the point of
Right.
whether it's not a formal motion, it's not policy. So I think that's the question. So your recommendation, you can have a gentle person's agreement to move it forward and then decide where it might go. But in and of itself, there's nothing in your current policies or BCSPA policies or handbook about, just respectfully, about these kind of companion pieces. So you need to determine if you're fine with it living as a companion, or if you want to bring a new policy, but there would be no motion necessary because it's not, you can't make a motion for something like this. Motions are in the School Act and Robert's rules is specific to, right, those decision, policy decisions, funding, et cetera, come for the board, I think.
I think it could be any
Oh.
decision, and
Yeah.
it could be a decision to use this document as a protocol. It's how we as a group decide on really anything like that is of substance. So I don't think there's anything that stops us from, it's like a safe way to make a decision. You Google all the things in the meantime. I would be prepared to propose that we utilize
You're
this
correct.
as a
You're right. Doesn't
as
have
a
to be policy.
protocol. I don't think it needs any changes. Sorry, do you want me to?
No, that's
Okay.
good. No, go,
Okay.
keep going.
I don't think it needs any changes if we agree to use it as a protocol. If we were going to put it into a policy, I would probably have suggestions about changes, but I don't really feel that that's necessary as long as our intention as a group moving forward is that we're like, we're going to, like, the next time this should be talked about is October, probably, whatever that meeting is after the election. And then just every 6 months after that, we talk about this one, and maybe in the future, we will incorporate this stuff into policy, but for right now, like, it creates more work as well. And it doesn't need to be there for the time being. We can just say we all believe these things are generally reasonable. I don't, think that there's really anything here that is particularly problematic. The only thing I will say is like, I don't hate online participation. It's fine for me. And I just, I hope that when we're discussing these things that like, we're not moving into a place of being judgmental about it, because there are people who it can come across that way sometimes. And I don't think that's the intention, but just to be mindful of like, especially when there's medical stuff associated with it, or there might be stuff that you're not even privy to that haven't been disclosed, that are the reasons why that need exists. And so just let's be gentle with each other, but have this shared understanding of this is what we want, like for the functionality of the board and the organization as a whole. This is our goal, and there may be exceptions, and we don't necessarily need to like disclosure of information or probing for stuff that could delve into the territory of the medical or more. We just have to have so much caution about that. And yeah.
Thank you. Rebecca?
So a couple of things. I would suggest that we remove the conducted via video conference from the purpose. This goes straight to ensure that public meetings conducted reflect the professionalism, and remove via video conference.
Yeah.
Because I think that we should all be, even those who are online should be conducting themselves like they're in the room. But in the room, we should be also following these public
Okay.
meetings, not eating. Because when you see it on the camera, it's not very pretty. And whatnot. So I think that would be a good idea.
I think,
And then also, sorry.
can I just, I think we're like falling into like the world of debate, and I think we need to have a motion on the table before we can debate. So I think first we need to decide whether or not we're going, correct me if I'm wrong, someone. I think first we need to have a motion to decide whether or not we're going to accept the language as written, and then we can debate changes.
There's no motion on the table.
Okay, that's fine.
Make the motion, I think.
Okay, so if we just give a second, we'll let Archie draft a motion.
My only fear is that the motion might be different based on like, are we being a little rigid? Should we just let Rebecca share her thoughts? Because the motion may be different based on what she said.
Well, because I don't think they'll support it as it's written.
Then we debate it.
But everything else I support.
Or you can, if it's a simple change.
You can make an amendment. Maybe just let her finish her thought, like, and it might.
It's
Make it
gone now,
faster.
so I got interrupted and it's gone.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of advice from both sides of the table.
No, I was way beyond that.
Okay. Okay, there is a motion recommendation printed. If there is someone who is prepared to make that recommendation, please go ahead.
That the policy committee accepts the attached protocols for online meetings.
Thank you, Rachel. Is there someone prepared to speak? April, thank you. All right, now we will have discussion and debate. Right. Don't we vote after we have a discussion?
Oh, that's right.
Okay. You don't confuse me. Like, hey, I'm right here. Okay, all right, discussion or debate, comments, all of the things. Melissa, please go ahead.
I agree with what Rachel and Rebecca said, that it should be across the board, whether you're on Zoom or in the boardroom.
Okay, thank you.
I don't really state it.
So maybe it should be attached protocols for online presence. I don't know. Because it's not an online presence, because it's not just an online meeting, if we're in person as well. But we have,
Because we're on that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We suggested.
Okay, I know. There. Okay, we have a couple of suggestions. Any other suggestions? Right, Rebecca?
Well, I'd go back to saying just remove via video conference.
Okay.
Which would change the title as well. Protocols for public meetings. And thank you, April, because I think it's very well laid out and easy to understand. It's just that one piece.
But it does say, sorry. It does say these protocols apply to all trustees participating remotely in public meetings of the board.
Yeah, we just scratch out remotely maybe.
No, I think that fits. If we remove via video conferencing and make these protocols for public meetings, I think that last sentence fits. As a reminder.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, that is passed unanimously. 7 people voting, 0. No, 7 people voting, 7 people in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. Okay. Thank you for that. Do we need to have a further discussion now on where this document will live? April.
Well, I liked Celeste's idea about us reviewing it, and maybe we could attach it to the policy, the role and responsibility of trustees, attach it there and review it at the same time. Okay, sound good?
I'm seeing several nods around the room. Celeste, go ahead.
I think we have like, at some point in the past, we've had like a calendar of things that we do at certain times of the year. And if we could just set the next date for after the election, and then every 6 months thereafter, a plan of when it's going to come again.
Yeah, I think that's like the board workbook.
Handbook or something.
But it existed once.
Yeah.
Somewhere Archie has it. Yes.
No, it was covered. It was
Okay.
covered.
Okay, thank you. So we have a suggestion to attach it to what I think is referred to as the trustee workbook. And
Board
also,
manual.
and also board task calendar. There we go. Thank you. And also maybe to attach it somewhere in, which policy did you say, April?
202.
202?
I think that it can't necessarily be attached to the policy, but what I heard you say is attached in the sense that they'll be looked at the same
Together,
time, but
right.
they are not.
Okay.
Connected.
Not put in the book.
Yeah. You got it.
Okay, now, I don't know if we need a motion for that or if that is just a discussion. Haha, anyone, how do people feel? Do you want to have that as a friendly agreement or do we want a formal motion?
I think
What's the motion?
friendly agreement.
I'm lost too.
I think the motion would be that we place this document in the
Task calendar.
task calendar.
Okay. I move to place it in the task calendar.
Thank you, Celeste.
I'll second it. Or there we go.
Okay, we'll give Archie a second to get caught up. Okay, I see that there is a recommendation there. Is someone prepared to read that recommendation?
That the policy committee adds the protocols for the board meeting document to the board task calendar.
Thank you, Melissa. And is there a second? for that?
Yep.
Okay, April, I think I heard you, but I saw April's hand. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? 7, thank you. That's 7 voting in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for all your work on those items. It was a lengthy conversation, but I think quite meaningful and helpful to all of us. We'll move forward now with about 20 minutes left until our next, well, to the ending of this meeting, which will take place at noon. And we have a new policy, policy 808, naming of school and district facilities. And I will turn that over to our superintendent, Chris Nicholson.
Thank you. So there has been some discussion amongst folks about how do we rename a school? And I'll remind folks that the changing of the name from Stiwamus to Statmas wasn't seen as a renaming. It was simply a language change. So we can put that one aside. But there has been lots of folks thinking about, you know, where did the names come from some of our schools? Might it be time to put a new name forward in the spirit of truth and reconciliation or other contemporary notions? So most school districts have a very similar policy where they've been updated to reflect these more progressive times. So what I have before you is basically a draft amalgamation of those policies that allow for a pathway for the changing of school names. This is a new policy. We did have one from years and years and years ago that I don't know why it didn't make it into our initial review, but it didn't. And I think it's something like 1986 or something like that. So honestly, it wasn't worth sharing because it would be completely crossed out. So I'm not sure if folks had a chance to read it through, but this is a little more of a clearer framework of how the district may choose to name and when necessary or when asked for, rename its schools and facilities. So it's intentionally starts by referencing the unceded special territories that we find ourselves, and that naming is being acknowledged, right, as an important and enduring act that reflects, yes, I wrote these things down, reflects our acts, our history, sorry, our values, our history, our commitment to reconciliation and the diverse communities we serve. So the policy outlines several guiding principles to shape naming decisions, including respect for Indigenous rights and cultural protocols, and a commitment to equity, inclusion, and educational value. Hopefully transparency and meaningful consultation is emphasized throughout. At the end of the day, it's the board that retains the final decision-making authority. And that the admin procedures that go along with this again, step-by-step processes would be an admin procedure. We'll talk about admin procedures a little bit later. My intent would be that the admin procedure would be fully public. It needs to be public in terms of what the steps are. And it does speak to, again, which is common across districts that have updated their policies, that the criteria for naming does prioritize local geography, Indigenous place names, when gifted or consented to, cultural and historical significance, distinctiveness, and long-term appropriateness. That naming facilities after individuals is generally discouraged and should be considered under exceptional circumstances. That it's always posthumous, meaning it would never be for a living individual. And we do full diligence, of course, on historical record and legacy. It goes into a little bit of detail around only using Indigenous names when appropriately gifted or consented to, that we follow proper protocols developed with rights holders. And that it does take, again, that meaningful consultation with rights holders and the learning community. And that if we are renaming, it would occur where there might be a conflict with the district values, or changes in community understanding or a significant educational consideration. And that again, it would be part of the 5 year. I think that's already part of what we do the 5 years, so maybe it doesn't have to be necessary. But that's basically the general framework. And if it is a policy that the board does give draft, it would be a draft approval. Because again, any new policy, and I would ask the board to think it was new, would go out for consultation, and then we follow our procedure for consultation, giving due notice for feedback. There is some interest. There has been folks about certain schools wanting to potentially bring things forward. So I would hope we could get this in place by the end of the school year to start off in September. But if there's more work to be done by that time, that's fine as well. So I'll look at that.
Okay, thank
Discussion.
you. Thank you very much, Chris. And I stand corrected. We actually only have 9 minutes left in this meeting. We're scheduled to finish at 11:50, not noon. So I'll turn it over to discussion, and Celeste, I see you.
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with the policy. This was on a previous agenda and was brought back again. I would move that we send this policy out for public consultation.
Lisa?
I agree. Just the caveat at the beginning refers to the board.
Oh, thank you.
So
Yes.
just for consistency, the same language as all our policies, and
That was a motion that I made.
Yeah.
Are you seconding? it?
I'll second
Oh.
that for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we do have the motion that this policy be sent out to the public for further consultation. And Lisa did say that she would second it and added some
Housekeeping.
discussion around housekeeping. Is there any other discussion around this policy going out for public? All right, seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? 7 in favor, that means 0 are opposed, and that motion is carried. Thank you very much, Chris, for your presentation, and we'll look forward to seeing if there's any input from the public and any other suggestions that might come forward. We move on to action item, item number 6, action items, of which we have none. That brings us to item number 7 on our agenda, questions of clarification from the public. So I'll give Danielle one moment to give a check. All right, seeing none and seeing that we have conducted all of the business that is on this agenda, I will call this meeting adjourned.